So as I mentioned, timekeeping is integrated into the CSPS solution. So that has a number of impacts to how we do timekeeping today. One of the biggest impacts is around biweekly pay. So if you've been around a while, you may remember the 21st Century Project. That project goes back in some form all the way to the late 90s. So the most recent iteration in the early 2010s, late 2010s, was to implement a software solution, but it had a number of struggles. One of the key struggles with that was the state's 21, 22-day pay system that we use today. So we built that all for ourselves. It's only done in California for the state of California. Nobody else in the world uses it. So you can imagine purchasing a commercial off-the-shelf product to implement CSPS causes some challenges when we got to customize it for that 21, 22-day pay period. So we made the decision to move away from that and move to a biweekly pay schedule. And so all of the requirements for the CSPS solution have been built around biweekly pay. So the 21, 22-day goes away and we'll have a 14-day pay period, a consistent 14-day pay period. With that, we're also moving to payroll in arrears. So a number of challenges with our current payroll cycle where we process payroll 9 days in advance of the close of the pay period and have numerous issues with accounts receivables and pulling warrants, things of that nature. So we're moving to payroll in arrears, where we will only run payroll for days that are in the past. So upon the close of that 14-day biweekly pay period, we will run payroll based off the actual time worked and leave entered, things of that nature. So that's a major change. Other changes are really just related to the modernization of the system and addressing some other challenges that we've had throughout in regards to keeping track of positions and staff and different bargaining rules and things of that nature. So position number attributes will be changing, how they're stored, the detail of them. The position number you're familiar with today will still have that detail, but there will be an additional unique identifier so that we can track positions from the day they're created and have a true traceability to what they are today. So as they get reclassed or move units, all of that stuff, we've got unique identifiers that can track all of that. So that will be new. And then the CBID, the 3-digit CBID, we're going to break that out into its different data elements so that it's much clearer around what those mean. No more of the E95, E96, E97 confusion that doesn't really mean anything to anyone outside of the state HR world. So those are just a couple of the changes. Obviously, it's a brand new system. It's a brand new data model. A number of things are going to be changing, but these are the major ones that really impact how we keep time today. So as I mentioned, timekeeping is integrated in Advantage. So when we built the CSPS scope, we wanted to make sure that we could do timekeeping for the overwhelming majority of the state right inside the CSPS solution. So Advantage comes with a number of features. This is not all of them, but these are some of the bigger ones, such as default work schedules, timesheet submission and approval, leave requests and approvals, real-time access to leave balances, leave donation program management for things such as catastrophic leave, natural disaster leave. Those donation and usage programs will all be built into Advantage, so Advantage can help manage those. And then work schedules and approved leave requests will be what populates the timesheet. So we won't have, for the majority of departments that use CSPS timekeeping, they'll do all their timekeeping right in CSPS. They'll submit their timesheets, manager supervisor will approve it, and we'll run payroll off of that time. So there's no separate keying process or paper process outside of what Advantage has built in. Some of the limitations that we have with Advantage, some of these might be obvious, but commercial off-the-shelf products. So we bought a commercial off-the-shelf product. It's implemented in a number of other jurisdictions across the country at the state level and local level, but it is a commercial off-the-shelf product. So one of the things when you buy a commercial off-the-shelf product, in order to achieve the value of that COTS product and moving forward for the next 20 years or so, that this will be our payroll solution, is to avoid those customizations. So again, that's why we ditched the 21, 22-day pay period. And we're taking that approach with everything that we can as we build and configure Advantage to make sure that the maintainability for the long term is sustainable, and we don't have a bunch of customizations that we've got to figure out and maintain over those next 20 years. So another thing with Advantage is we're not aware of every single department timekeeping need. So this is where this session comes in and your help comes in. So we've built the CSPS requirements, as I said, to meet 90% of our 165 plus departments timekeeping needs, but we know there are some complex timekeeping requirements, time reporting requirements, work tracking, project activity code tracking requirements out there in department land. And there may be other things that we're not aware of either that you have as part of your timekeeping system. So again, because we don't know every single thing, there may be some things that Advantage just won't be able to do for you. And again, that's part of what this discussion is about, is to kick off that effort to find that out and find out if CSPS will work for you or if you'll need a timekeeping interface. So as we look to that future state, a couple of things that we consider from the project perspective, and honestly from the statewide HR perspective too. So in a perfect world, all departments would be using CSPS timekeeping. So this creates really a seamless experience for employees too, as they transfer from department to department. They're familiar with how to do timekeeping because they do it in the same system across departments. Simplifies maintenance for us, simplifies running payroll. All of that is greatly simplified if we had all departments using CSPS timekeeping. However, timekeeping is complex in the state, and we know that. So one of the things to consider when we're building CSPS is the project timeline and what it would take to fully meet all 165 plus departments' timekeeping needs. That just won't fit in that implementation window. So is Advantage capable? Yes. Will it be available day one? May or may not. And that's what we need to figure out. So that initial configuration may not meet what you need to do today. Every interface, though, that results from that is going to add project risk. So if we end up out of this exercise with 50 interfaces for timekeeping solutions out of phase one, that's a lot of risk to the project. We've got to rely on you to build that interface. Then we've got to make sure it meets our time requirements that we'll talk about later, to get it into user acceptance testing and that it functions so that when we put you live in CSPS, you can get us time, we can run us payroll accurately. So we're trying to limit those timekeeping interfaces for just that reason. So we really want to do a robust analysis process in the limited time that we're given, to make sure that you really need to have your own timekeeping system and an interface. Otherwise, we want you to be using CSPS timesheets. So another consideration is things like the payroll input process. Those are being retired completely, so those won't be available once you're live in CSPS. CSPS, the vision for CSPS is that it calculates pay, overtime, pay differentials, all from time and leave entries. So when you do build your timekeeping interface, if you end up needing one, those are some of the things that we need to come across is the days and hours worked, maybe not the hours worked, depending on your work week group. But if you need overtime, obviously that comes in, any pay differentials, things of that nature, those will all come over to CSPS so that we can calculate pay. I mentioned the position control structure changes with the position number primarily. At the end of the day, though, we may have to maintain two systems. So if there comes a point in this process where CSPS won't work, your department is unable to build the interface to send the data to CSPS, there may be a situation, and we hope that there's not, but there may be a situation where dual entry is required in. You have to maintain your internal timekeeping system, but you also have to enter the information directly into CSPS so that CSPS can run payroll. And obviously, we're trying to avoid that at all costs, which is why we're reaching out to start these discussions now. All right, I think I'm passing it over to Kieran. She's our CSPS project manager. She's going to talk a little bit about timekeeping interface analysis and the process that we're going to go through.
Hey, thanks, Brandon. Morning, everyone. This is Kiran Kesaredi, CSPS Project Manager. And like Brandon said, it's a COTS product, ideal world. We would have all the departments logging into this new Advantage product and doing timekeeping, but we don't live in such a perfect world. So here's my attempt to kind of go through what if departments are doing something off that doesn't fit into CSPS solution, and how do we gather that information? How do we interface with those departments? First of all, we would like to do the analysis of like what your timekeeping system is tracking today. What are you maintaining? What are you reporting off? In order for us to understand that, we would like to request. I mean, with minimum effort from your end, we would not like to add any work on your side. If there is a data dictionary or anything that describes your system on your side, that would be super helpful for us if we can receive that. And that'll help us do some fit gap analysis, trying to understand why it couldn't be a part of the CSPS Advantage platform. And that helps us estimate like what is this interfaces list and how big or how small it is and how it impacts the overall schedule of CSPS. Like Brandon mentioned, if there are 50 systems that do not fit into this COTS product and requires a lot of customization and we need to interface, it adds a lot of time onto the project schedule. And that's what we are trying to estimate. How the departments can help us here is any documentation that you have, data dictionary or anything that speaks to how this layout is. There will be more communication coming from OCM team on CSPS, but if that is shared, we will do our share of analysis, and probably we will need more one-on-one calls with your technical teams as needed to understand more about the discrepancies or what you're really trying to collect. Sometimes we do understand that some of this is not being maintained, it's been put together, and so not additional time is needed. Just send us what you have and we'll go from there. So again, link to this meeting recording and survey will be sent to the liaison. We request there is a liaison for coordinating the survey responses and also the data dictionary submission and any back and forth that we need, whether it's a schema information or whether our technical staff would like to reach out to you. It is easy if we go through the liaison. So setting up the liaison to work with us is essential. And like I said, if data dictionary, anything that maps the fields and says, hey, this is PII, PHI, this is what we are collecting today. We're collecting in-office work days versus something else. All that information would be super helpful for us. There'll also be a survey sent out by the OCM team. If you can complete that as soon as possible and send us what you have, with limited amount of work. I can't stress enough, we are not trying to push a lot of work on the departments and do our share of analysis here. So whatever you have, you can ship it to us by February 6th. It helps, it kind of aligns with our timeline to do our analysis on our side. And there will definitely be follow-up meetings as we dive into this documentation that's being sent to us. What's a data dictionary? I mean, I'm pretty sure there is a combination of HR folks and technical folks on this call. So data dictionary basically describes what is the scope of your timekeeping system and the field level details of like what are you currently having it, what is the name of that field, what kind of type, like as in like are you collecting a big, is it a numeric field versus a text field? What are you trying to collect? What are the calculations that you're doing? Whether it's a PII, PHI information, how frequent do you refresh this database, things like that, which again, our CSPS technical team will be working with your technical team members if there is any questions on that. But that's how an ideal data dictionary would be looking. And if you can also send how outdated it is. Say, for example, the system was put together 5 years ago and you didn't have a chance to go back and correct it, that's fine. Ship it the way it is, but just let us know that, hey, this has been updated in 2021 and nothing has been done to this data dictionary or this schema or this document that kind of gives a tuna can diagram of all the tables, whatever it is, when you're sending it to us. The more information you're sending to us, the better it is for our analysis and very less questions to your teams as well. Again, speaking to what is a good data dictionary, you're not expecting you to modify anything on your end to fit this, but this is how typically it would look with a table name, field name, what it does, a definition, and whether there is a reference key, and what are the business rules. Business rules are the key here on what you do or how you process the data. Like I said, we can even receive smoke signals. Doesn't matter. Whatever you have, please do send us our way. Again, only for the folks who think that their timekeeping system does not fit into our CSPS Advantage solution. If you think you are ready to adapt to this new system, then yeah, you could ignore whatever I said so far. This speaks to the timeline that Brandon was kind of mentioning. We are currently identifying state interfaces per entity by wave, as you can it was mentioned a couple of times. There is 3 phases with a total of 11 waves, 4 waves for the first phase and 4 waves for the second and 3 for the third one. A total of 11 waves is how we'll onboard all of these departments. So we are kind of making that list of what falls in and what falls out of these departments per wave as the priority. Again, our timeline is to receive any documentation you have early February, so we can start our analysis in March and kind of have a plan on how to do this interface development and go to the user acceptance testing somewhere in November through May of next year. That's broader strokes of the timeline, and this is where Brandon again was mentioning, like if 50 departments do fall out and we have to interface, it pushes this timeline because any customization on the COTS product, it's almost like moving into a cookie cutter house, and which if you want to customize your home, it takes time. The scope of the interface. Our goal is to keep one interface, inbound and outbound interface, even for these departments that do not fit into CSPS. So more additional, we're working with our system integrator now to put the fields that is needed to build this interface, one format of it. And the data dictionaries and the information that you would send us will also help us understand how this interface have to be built. That way it's one interface for all of the departments that do not sit on CSPS rather than multiple formats having to maintain, and where the data is lost, it'll be very hard to track going forward. We'll be sharing the interface once we have an idea of what fields it is, and then we'll be working with your technical teams on how that information will be received from your timekeeping system into the CSPS, and how the errors will be sent back, and how a report will be coming to you as in like, this is the information that has been loaded into our system successfully or not so successfully. This is again a very high level picture of like department timekeeping systems. Your systems are in green that do not fit into CSPS, hoping that that number is very small. But once we have this inbound interface, but like saying that these are the hours work, leave usage, time related pay differentials, anything like that. Once we develop the interface and the fields, we'll be sharing with your teams, and your file will be helping us send that information through this inbound interface into CSPS, which is on the top left corner. And once it's processed on CSPS, there will be 2 files. One is like the error file and one is an output. And then the data will be sitting into CSPS. That's like a very, very high level flow, how it's going to look for the system that has their own timekeeping system that's kind of not fitting into the COTS solution. But we'll look at your data that you provided to make every attempt to make sure it's part of CSPS. So maintenance and operations is easy on the product. Next steps to Heather.
Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Hampton, and I am the Organizational Change Management Readiness Program Chief. So just here to wrap up our next steps, which, as Karen mentioned, is the data dictionary assignment, which will be due on February 6th. It'll be a survey and then directions on how to send your data dictionary or your schema information. That survey, we will also be asking you to identify your technical coordinator if you haven't already. We only need your data dictionary and schema information if you're choosing to interface with the new system. If you're not, we don't need that. And then we will also be having data sharing agreements being sent out, and those will go to your liaison.
Heather, if somebody is not, if a department chooses not to interface, would you still like for them to complete the survey?
Yes, the survey, the very first question is going to ask if they are going to interface or not. And if you say no, the survey will end at that point. So again, we just want to thank everyone for taking time out of your busy days to participate. And if you have any further questions, please work through your liaison, who then can work through the ACE here on the project. So thank you, everyone.